Hi everybody, Kirsten here, and I have another top 10 video for you today. I wanted to do a top 10 of my 10 current favorites, not all-time favorites because that's just too much for me to try and figure out. So my top 10 current favorite books that I've read in the past 6 months. Number 10 is going to be Isla and the Happily Ever After by Stephanie Perkins. I love these books. This is the third companion novel to the Anna and the French Kiss series. And I really love this one. I think this one's quite possibly my favorite of the three. Lola was the clear winner in the beginning, but then I read this one and I was like, Josh and Isla, I just love both of them. They're the sweetest. I can't even handle it. I love them so much. So in this book, it follows Josh and Isla. You meet them in the first book, and they are friends with Anna, and well, Josh is friends with Anna in St. Clair. And Isla just happens to be a background character. You meet her in the first book when she's doodling Josh's name on a binder or a notebook or something like that. They both live in New York and they meet in the summer before school starts, and then they go back to school and they see each other and they start dating and a whole bunch of weird stuff happens, and it's actually one of the most realistic stories that I have read about teenagers in love for the first time. There's nothing about Isla that makes her like a quirky character, nothing that makes her stand out, which makes her a more realistic character in my eyes, because not everybody that's in high school knows who they are yet, and not everybody that is especially about to graduate high school knows what they're going to do with their lives. So that is why I love this book so much, because she was such a relatable character to me. Number 9 is going to be Everything Leads to You by Nina LaCour. This is a YA contemporary that has a lesbian narrator, which is amazing because there aren't enough YA books that have anyone that is not straight narrating their books. So this is like a really refreshing read. It's about a young woman who lives in California and she's a set designer. She goes to the home of a dead celebrity who's having an estate sale. In the process, she finds a letter addressed to his daughter, and in the process, she meets this young woman and they fall in love, and it's actually one of the more successful books I've ever read that trumps the Manic Pixie Dream Girl scenario. I know that a lot of people will like argue with me forever that John Green is like the god of that, but I actually think this book did it correctly and didn't fail at it like the other books that I have read have. So I definitely recommend this book. So number 8 is going to be Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge. It is a retelling of the Beauty and the Beast, and the Beast in this book is Ignifix, and he is a demon. And Nyx, our heroine, is seduced by the evil, and it's amazing because she's one of my favorite morally gray characters, because she's going into this knowing that she needs to help the people in the land get rid of the beast, but she ends up falling in love with him. So it's just, I love that she's just seduced by the darkness, and I kind of just really love those kinds of stories. So I definitely recommend this, Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge. Number 7 is going to be The Queen of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. This is an adult fantasy story. It is the first in a series about a young woman who finds herself becoming the Queen of the Tearling. Surprise, surprise, there's the title for you. There's a ton of magic in this story, and there's no romantic interest. So it's one of these books that if you're not into romance at all but love a good fantasy story, this is definitely one for that. She is a badass character, and she is not your typical pretty princess, so it is really refreshing to read a book like that. I did a book talk on it, and I will go ahead and link that below, so if you want to learn more about this book, you can go ahead and watch that. Number 6 is going to be Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. I was really hesitant to read the Throne of Glass series. I read the first 30 pages, couldn't get into it, put it down, and then my girlfriend told me to stick it out and read it, because after the first like 60 or so pages it starts getting really good, and I did, and I ended up loving it. And then Crown of Midnight is my favorite of the Throne of Glass novels, and it is so good. There's a lot of action to it. You find out a lot about our heroine Selena. She is an assassin, and this world is full of magic and fae and good and evil, and I just love it. And there's always something really amazing to me about a super feminine heroine that can kill anybody. It's so good. Number 5 is going to be Luck's Beginnings by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I love this entire series. This is a book series that is definitely a guilty pleasure, but I don't really have guilty pleasures because I pretty much talk about everything I love and don't hide it. But these books are so amazing. It's definitely more of a romance read, but there's a lot of action involved as well. The Lux world follows these aliens that come to Earth, and the government knows about them, covering them up, and this young girl, she's also a book blogger and does book reviews and like does booktube videos and all of that. So I think that was really great, being able to identify with her as that. I love these books and I read them all like voraciously. I could not put them down. Number 4 is going to be Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This is a new adult book and it is heartbreaking, like absolutely. It's a romance, don't get me wrong, but it definitely has a lot of conflict and it's so sad. It's about a young woman who's furthering her education in graduate school, and her brother is a pilot. When she goes to stay with him because she's starting school in the same area, and she meets the young man that lives across the way who's also a pilot with her brother, and they get entangled with each other, and her narrative is present and his narrative is past. So you find out a lot about him and why he is unable to further relationship with this young woman, and it's so sad, but it's so good at the same time. I love Colleen Hoover, just absolutely. Number 3 is going to be Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laini Taylor. This is the 3rd and final book in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, and I just love it so much. So I got really into the Daughter of Smoke and Bone books a while ago. I read the first 2, one right after the other. They were so good, but very long. They are long reads considering they are YA. YA books don't generally have the page count that these do, but definitely worth it. There is so much rich mythology in these books, and this was just the perfect ending to the series, and I absolutely love this book. I love everything about the characters, the character development of these characters. So if you don't know what the Daughter of Smoke and Bone books are about, they follow a young woman, Kairu, and a young man named Akiva. He is an angel. She is a human girl that is also part chimera, and the chimera are these beasts that quote unquote live in hell basically, and then there's the angels that live above. And these books are about the war between the chimera and the angels, and actually you find out that the bad guys aren't exactly the bad guys you think they are, and then the good guys aren't the good guys you think they are. So there's a lot of back and forth between the demons and the angels and finding out who are the good guys and who are not the good guys. So it's actually really amazing. It's so rich with mythology, and I love these books. Number 2 is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I hope I'm saying her name right. And the reason why I chose this book is because it's the only book in the series that I have a physical copy of. But this series is so good. I wasn't interested in reading the series at all. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I was not. I had no interest in it. I started reading Shiver, didn't like it, so I put that away. And I was like, maybe Maggie Stiefvater isn't for me. And then my girlfriend told me to read this book, and I did. And I read all 3 books in a row. The Raven Cycle is a paranormal series about 5 young people that are chasing down a king in a magical place where he has been sleeping for hundreds of years. His name is Glendower, and they find this place called Cabe's Water, and it's super amazing and super magical. In this series, there are so many things in the series, anything you could possibly think of that could be in a paranormal book. There are psychics, witches, there are magical places, there are crazy dream creatures, and I just love this book series so much. Number 1 is going to be Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I love these books. Like, I'm pretty sure this is my most recommended book. This is my most recommended series. This is my favorite YA series ever. I love them. It's a high fantasy story, and it takes place in Ravka, and it follows our young Alina, and she is a sun summoner, which is very rare in this land of Grisha. And the Grisha are people that have a magical ability, and they are part of the 2nd Army for Ravka. And the person that leads that 2nd Army is the Darkling, and he is the only one of his kind. And so he teams together with Alina to try and destroy the Fold, which is this darkness that separates Ravka from the rest of the world, basically. And there's just so much that goes on. There's so much magic, and I love this series so much. I love the Darkling. I love him. He's my favorite villain ever. and I just love this series so much. If you haven't read it, you need to read it. If you've been putting off reading it, don't put it off any longer. Read it and tell me that you love it as much as I do, because I absolutely love this book. All right, everybody, that is my top 10 current favorites that I have read in the past 6 months. I hope that this gives you an idea of some books to read if you are looking for something new. And why don't you tell me your top 10 favorite books at the moment? Go ahead and leave a comment below telling me what they are, and maybe that'll give me something new to read and I can talk about those books too. But everybody have a great week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.